And there is a conscious switch you have to do when you switch from individual contributor to a people manager, which is you shouldn't have all the bright ideas and solutions anymore. Find a mentor a lot earlier and listen to your team a lot more. When I was a people manager, I was imposing my ideas. In fact, I even went to the extent of recommending my template for promotion to some of my people. So the advice I would again give is read all the books that your mentors are recommending. Find mentors quickly. You can't solve all of it by yourself. And listen a lot more to your people. So that one-liner of believe in yourself more, otherwise you can't win this, has stayed with me the last 6 months, and it's going to stay with me for the rest of my life.
Welcome to the Tech Waka podcast, where we dive into the journeys of New Zealand's top tech leaders. Your host for today is Jakub, bringing you conversations with tech leaders and innovators from across Aotearoa. Join us as we uncover the experiences, challenges, and successes that shape our tech community.
Hello. In this episode of the Tech Waka podcast, I sit down with Saif Ali, engineering manager at Gentrack and someone I had the pleasure of working with during our days at Air New Zealand. Saif takes us through his unique career journey from India to New Zealand, from individual contributor to people leader, and the powerful lessons he's learned along the way. We unpack the real responsibilities of leadership, the critical role of mentorship, and how to thrive through change. Whether you're a senior leader or just starting out, this one is packed with wisdom. Enjoy. Hi Saif, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Pretty excited to be here.
It's really good to see you. You and I used to work together at Air New Zealand a few years back. How have you been? Where are you at right now? What has your career been in the last few years?
Jakub, first of all, I still recall our days with Air New Zealand. We ran few very, very good sessions with managing teams and all. The last 3.5 years, I've been working with Gentrack. I am working as a full-time engineering manager with Gentrack and have seen quite a bit of journey on how we work on our next generation of products and keep releasing products for future for our utility customers.
As far as I remember, your career is really interesting because you've started as an individual contributor, as a developer, then you moved to being a people manager in 2013. You moved to New Zealand, back to being individual contributor. Now you're a people leader as well. Tell us a bit more about that. What are some of the interesting lessons? How did that career journey look like for you? And what did you have to adjust and learn along the way?
Yeah, thanks for remembering that, Jakub. Yeah, 2013 is when I took my first attempt at people management. It led my team through few challenging projects, a lot of learnings and a lot of what I call battle scars the first time around as well. And then change of pace, came out to New Zealand. And one of the things I consciously wanted to do was get more hands-on cloud experience. So that's where again I switched to individual contributor role. At some point in New Zealand, I was blessed to have a really good people manager who kept challenging me. Every time I would go to him with certain ideas, he would say, you have all the right ideas, why don't you lead a group of people and get these ideas executed? And it took a lot of convincing, but that's where I took my first attempt at people management in New Zealand. And again, a lot of learning and a lot of experience over several projects in Air New Zealand over that. And now I'm working in Gentrack as a people manager, full-time people manager in the last 3.5 years. The journey has been interesting. I thought I was equipped to be a people manager because I had one attempted back in India. But again, in New Zealand, completely different cultural setting. In fact, a lot more multicultural than India. And there is a conscious switch you have to do when you switch from individual contributor to a people manager, which is you shouldn't have all the bright ideas and solutions anymore. It should come from your people. But when you are a high performer individual contributor, somehow you keep progressing in that mode. So again, first 1 year as people manager in Air New Zealand was a second interesting journey. To make it more interesting, the people manager who convinced me to give that role moved on from Air New Zealand. So I didn't have that support system anymore all of a sudden. And after 6 months, here's one interesting thing happened. There's one team who was performing really, really well here in New Zealand. So I kept asking the team, what's clicking for you? And finally, I realized the secret sauce was their manager, one of our mentor, Mark Smith. So I reached out to Mark and said, you have to become my mentor. And he recommended a lot of really good books and approaches on how I can tweak my strategy. It's not about me anymore, it's about the people. And that had a big impact on me. Hence, that has continued. Over the years, I've been blessed to have really good managers and mentors and people who I like and observe in different part of the company. So learning from each one of them, it has been a journey for last 5, 6 years.
That's a really cool story, Saif. If you could go back to that moment of 1 year into being into people leadership at Air New Zealand, if you can go back to that moment and give yourself advice, what would you say to yourself?
The advice I would give is to myself is find a mentor a lot earlier and listen to your team a lot more. When I was a people manager, I was imposing my ideas. In fact, I even went to the extent of recommending my template for promotion to some of my people. So the advice I would again give is read all the books that your mentors are recommending. Find mentors quickly. You can't solve all of it by yourself. And listen a lot more to your people. To give an example, in my first 1 year in 101s, I was out talking all of the people who were reporting to me. And after 1 year, there was a conscious switch that I shouldn't be talking more than 30-40% of time in a 101. So again, hard advice to my younger self would be listen a lot more and make sure you read all the books.
Do you recall any belief about leadership that you had as an engineer that you had to change, or that you think you had completely wrong about leadership? Something that when you became a leader, you realize, oh, that was actually very wrong assumption.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Yakub. So, see, this is what I found about every role is when you apply for the next role, your visibility is limited. You look at the team and you look at the role, kind of look at upwards. Whereas leadership role is almost like an iceberg, where a team would have visibility on tip of iceberg, but manager would be doing a lot of things behind the scene, in the background, coordinating with multiple teams, managing stakeholders in different aspects. So my realization pretty quickly was, as a leader, your biggest job is not to make sure the team is most efficient and put every single process and technology at team's disposal so that the team is efficient. Actually, as a leader, your job is to create visibility. In fact, it's a reverse. Give autonomy to all the team, all the autonomy you can to the teams to solve their problems themselves, and just be a good advocate for the team and make sure they have enough time and capacity to solve those problems. And when they do, create enough visibility that the team has solved this problem. So it's actually the biggest misconception was it's exactly reverse of what you think initially from the expectation what a team should do and what you end up doing as a leader of that team. And the same rule applies whether you're leading one team or 5 team or a department. Our initial visibility, more so if you are internal candidate, is very limited to what team is doing inwards. But the outward is the other part of the iceberg, 90% of the iceberg.
For people who are thinking about becoming an engineering manager or team lead and kind of stepping into people leadership, could you tell a bit more about your usual week at work? What would be some of the things that you do every week? How do you split your time between being more technical, facilitating, coaching one-on-ones, managing down, managing up, managing across? How does your week look like?
For people who are listening, and more so individual contributors and more so technical people, here's first relatable example I'll give. When you're an individual contributor, you have a Jira and a stand-up. There is no Jira board for a manager.
Yeah.
So what you have to get really good at and really efficiently, which is what I have to do every week, is plan your tasks in advance for the week. Something I would do either on a Friday evening or Monday morning, or in some cases somewhere in between, is here are the outcomes and the task I would like to achieve in this week. And again, for a manager, what I've learned over the years is keep looking at the task list every day, because reality is is a plan, but no survives a contact with battle. So every day look at that plan and see, okay, is this still a priority? And out of these 5 tasks that are staring at me today, which is the one I can make a significant dent, but which is the one I can do, get it done today, and it's a quick win, so that you get your own job satisfaction as well. So invariably in a week, I would have 2, 3 high priorities, which sometimes would be as early as possible, get an alignment with my immediate manager. Here's what I'm doing. And then start reaching out to stakeholders over the week. So make sure I have all my meetings lined up. Second would be quick wins, and quick wins sometimes can be done very easily by just having asynchronous conversation or sending out an email. So get those out as soon as they come across. Now, I'm been blessed to have very, very good team leads. So with team leads, it's more of a pattern of here are my one-on-ones, here's the update I need to provide to them, and here's the information I need. But at the same time, every one-on-one is an opportunity as well. How's their team doing? Is there any concern coming our way from people? Is anyone unhappy that's affecting their motivation as well? So keep an eye on these things over the week. What I've learned over the years is if you want to have very successful and high performing team leads, some of them would and should be able to do your job quickly, is not get into the weeds and don't get into getting a status update every day, or even some cases, what are you doing for this week? Delegate and give all the autonomy to the team leads.
If we move back to the topic that you mentioned around mentorship, and you said that how mentors are really important and how they've been important in your career, what tips would you have for finding a mentor? Many people, they want to find a mentor, but they don't even know how to start. Who could be their mentor? How to approach a mentor? Would you have some tips for that?
This is what I've learned to do over the years is at any point, and this is what I recommend to anyone who's reporting to me, is at any point you should have 3 different mentors. Someone within your department who you think is achieving one particular outcome very well, and that's a skill you lack. Someone in the wider company and not necessarily your department, and someone outside of your company and not even in your company, because these 3 people can give you 3 completely different perspectives. What I keep telling people also is your line manager should not be your mentor.
Why is that?
Here are a few things which I've learned, and that's where I keep my team leads honest as well, is your line manager invariably would have some conflict of interest. There is a reality. Your line manager is again more, your line manager's remit is to get things done, delivered on time. And that could be a short-term or a medium-term goal. But if you're thinking long-term, where do you want to be? You want someone who doesn't have that conflict of interest. Now, there are really good managers out there who can balance that conflict of interest very, very, very well. But at the same time, to keep things balanced, you need someone who is not very close to what you're doing and someone who has that zero chance of having any conflict of interest.
I haven't thought about that this way. So thank you. And is this the approach you also have for your people, your team leads? Do you encourage them to find a mentor outside of the company or inside the company?
Absolutely, Jakub. And not only that, I try to go, I am proactive by nature, so I try to go a bit beyond. I can't help it. The individual contributor in me sometimes can be very solution-based, but I usually recommend a list of people to some of my tech leads as well. Hey, here's one person who's doing really well and he's part of this department. How about you have one quick chat and see if your interests align? So I proactively try to connect people, and that always leads to good outcome.
Going back to your experience with having a mentor, can you share a story where advice from a mentor completely changed how you handle a situation?
There are so many good examples here, Yakub. It's something as recent as 6 months ago, where I had a really tough challenge on my hand and Gentrack, and I wasn't even sure if I want to give it a go because the risk to success ratio was quite staggered. But I reached out to one of my mentor, and coincidentally, that mentor of mine is a coach of a sports team as well. And my mentor said, if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you. You can't win a game by not believing in yourself. And sometimes, Yaku, what I've learned is these one or two liners have a lot more impact on you as compared to someone giving you a half an hour information session. So that advice turned me around, and I've started believing in myself, even to the extent if I have to go for an impossible situation, I would still give it a shot with after setting expectation with people that this is a mission impossible. There's chance I'll fail, but I'll still give this a shot. So that one liner of believe in yourself more, otherwise you can't win this, has stayed with me the last 6 months, and it's going to stay with me for the rest of my life.
Oh, beautiful. And what would be your expectation from a mentor? So let's say you work with a mentor. What would be some of the things you're looking for in a mentor?
So, again, Jakub, since I have reached out to so many people who have mentored me, it's always a list of three. I've also learned over the years which mentors are good and which mentors don't work for me. They're all good people. They're offering their time. His advice for a mentor would be, one thing would be, again, it's the same mistake that I was doing earlier in my career, is do not impose a template of success that worked for you. A lot of mentors fall into this trap of, hey, I did this in last 1 year, or here's what I did in last 20 years. And there were the step A, B, C, and D. Do you want to try A, C, and E? And that will get you to where I am. So that's one thing I've learned doesn't work for me. A template for success. What I'm looking from a mentor is a completely different perspective. Someone who's quite honest about the battle scars they got and what are the things they learned hard way. Because that's what I tell my people. Here's what I've learned the hard way. I learned it through a lot of pain and suffering in 2 years. Here's what I can recommend. Again, if you want to give it a go. So from my mentor, I'm looking from completely different perspective, but a lot of battle scars from the past on how they won certain situations. And again, what makes people connectable is someone who has a similar personality and a similar industry that obviously accelerates the connection with the mentor. For example, if someone has the same personality as me and is working in IT, we would connect a lot quicker. But I've realized over the years that is not necessarily a barrier, because as I expand my horizon, where I reach out to a mentor who might be working in HR and not IT, someone who might be working in finance, they make equally good mentors. So those are my
Interesting.
3 criteria for looking for a good mentor.
What advice would you have for mentees? What some attitude or mindset you need to have to really leverage the mentorship relationship you get with someone?
Here's what I've learned as a mentee, so I would try to pass on. See, if you are being mentored by someone, that person is investing certain part of their life, X hours of their life. So I might be saying certain cliche thing, but always show up. At the same time, even that person might be, both of you are unique individuals, so that other person would be doing mentoring on someone. This combination is going to be unique. but they are also looking for a feedback loop. So once in a while, give feedback. Hey, this is what you recommended to me one month ago, and it worked really well for me. By all means, acknowledge it publicly so other people see the value in being mentored by same person. What I would also say is being upfront on what might be completely out of your comfort zone so that you're not practically wasting someone's time. So be very clear, hey, this is something that's completely out of my comfort zone and I can't do this, or this is something out of my comfort zone. I can stretch and do it, but it's going to take time and effort. Because the last thing you want to do is leave a mentor puzzled on why things didn't progress. Even mentors have a certain level of enthusiasm. They need their feedback loop, and they need a job satisfaction out of that engagement. So think about the other person.
One thing that you mentioned before we started recording was that you have quite a lot of experience in change management or helping people to go through change. I think that's quite useful, especially in the current climate when organizations are going through restructures or roles are changing. Do you have any advice how leaders can help their people when change is happening at an organization?
So a bit of a backstory is, see, I'm someone who's lived in 4 countries. I'm someone who, when I was growing up, who changed school every 3-4 years because my father worked in a lot of different jobs. And it's in some, there have been a lot of change in the company for a lot of good reasons. So, and again, everyone is different. Some people, like, as one of my mentors used to say, and you would have worked with that mentor, David Shepard, is for some people change is a party. And for some people change can be very, very unsettling. So now my advice would be twofold for someone who's going through a change and thinking from their manager perspective as well is, and I work with people on daily basis, so on leading them through the change, is having that line of communication with your manager. Hey, this change is really, really unsettling me. Because a lot of times good managers have leeway on minimizing the impact on change on certain person. And we look out for that. So if you are upfront and as soon as you see a change communicated to you in whatever way, is you set the expectation, set the boundary, and do it early, the manager can factor that in their plans. Now, people on the other spectrum for whom change is a party, I would say don't even wait for a change for that to happen. In fact, start advocating for a change. Look around and see a big or a small problem in the company and start putting together a plan, because guess what? A lot of managers are time constrained. So if you go to your manager and have a list of, hey, here's a challenge, here's a problem statement, and here's how a change can help us solve this for a company. It's a win-win for everyone. Guess what? You're not in a change. In fact, you're leading a change. And trust me, there is nothing better than leading a change in whatever form. I would say a very cliche thing. Titles don't matter. Actually, they don't. If you can always support a senior executive, you can support a manager in leading a change. And if you are leading a change, you have good influence, you have a good say. Again, nothing can be more rewarding than execution of that change. You'll get massive job satisfaction as well. So that's how I would recommend for people who are on the two ends of a spectrum on how to deal with the change.
Oh, that's great. That's great. What I kind of relate to especially is this concept of actually following a change. So I think there's a time to be a leader and to lead the change, but also every leader needs followers. So sometimes it's actually deciding I will follow and I will do whatever I can to make that change happen. can also be very rewarding, but also can help you build stronger relationships, can help you learn, and can help you actually show up as a leader, because even when you're a follower, you can also act as a leader by helping the change to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. You have brought up a really interesting point, Jakub, which is followers and giving that feedback loop and sometimes appreciations to the leaders as well. Because, see, here's the thing most of us forget is there might be 100 people going through a change, but there might be 2, 3 leaders who are leading the change. And these guys go through a lot. More so if they have to communicate with everyone, manage all the expectation. So giving them appreciation and a feedback and following them and giving them a boost goes a long, long way. And not only that, see, at some point you will move to a different role soon. Being a follower and getting insight into a change, supporting it, will actually give you a lot of insight on when you have to lead a change in future, in what were the learnings and how could you get it better for your department, your area in future. So it's an excellent learning opportunity as well, which you put.
Oh, that's been a great conversation, Saif. A lot of actionable pieces of advice. And probably the thing that I am going to take from this especially is go and give feedback to your leader and go and appreciate your leader, because they often don't hear that enough. They do need their feedback loop, how to improve, but also they also need their feedback loop to hear what they're doing right and how they are adding value. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom that you shared with us.
Thanks a lot for having me, Jakub, and thanks a lot for making time for me.
That was Saif Ali, an insightful and humble leader with a deep passion for helping others grow. I hope this conversation left you with some food for thought on leadership, mentorship, and the art of navigating change. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who's thinking of stepping into a leadership role. Until next time, keep learning and keep leading.